I would like to invite on stage Ashin Uday, Product Lead, Shakti Cloud, Yotta Data Services Private Limited. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope I'm audible loud and clear. Okay. Today, I'll take you into the world of AI factories, right? What they are, why it matters to you, and why we at Yotta are building these massive sovereign AI factories at scale. In the modern AI era, we all know that data is the new oil, right? Of course, all of us have dozens, or I would say terabytes or petabytes of data available with this, right? But gaining insights out of it is the most important, crucial aspect today. And that is exactly where AI factories kick in. Right? To envisage AI factory, imagine a large factory, right? Which is powered not by steel, but with an array of GPUs, a complex data pipeline, and an array of LLMs. The output, a token, which is the currency of intelligence. These tokens can be speech, image, text, video, code, or even a decision, right? Our ADAS systems today are those decisions that you see in real use case. What we at Yotta are helping you build is this end-to-end AI factory, which means you're able to ingest the data that you have, you're able to pre-train, fine-tune a model of your choice, and finally push AI to production, which is inferencing. Welcome to your AI factory built by Yotta. At the heart of this platform, we have an array of GPUs which come in from the industry leader, which is NVIDIA, all of them connected through InfiniBand, which means the performance and the scale that you really desire for is what you're getting on this cluster. All this bound by the compliance that you ask for and the software that's really needed to accelerate your innovation. That's what we deliver to you via our AI factories. So today, when you look at AI, there are three fundamental pillars that come to play. You could be consuming one or all the three depending on how evolved you are in the AI journey, right? The first being develop, wherein you have a roadmap or an ideology or a hypothesis to work on, right? And for it, all your engineers today are well versed with Jupyter Notebook or PyTorch or TensorBoard, right? Wherein they start working on. And the problem that you're encountering is the physical asset is then the challenge that you always are bound with, right? So first service that we bring on table is the AI lab, right? What it does, it is the same Jupyter lab as a service, which means you're not bound by any constraints that a physical asset will bring on. You're able to scale it up and down magically depending on what your business asks for or what the need of the day is, right? Second, if you go back to the traditional AI route and you want a dozen of VMs wherein you just want to assess it and get through, of course you have that flexibility of choosing that product and building an AI journey from. Once you've worked on the hypothesis, you need to get to large distributed training. That's the second option that we bring on via training. You can build your massive training on either Slurm or K8s depending on what your scheduling priorities are, right? Once you've built, developed, you have to finally push AI to action. That is where inferencing as a service kicks in, right? Today, all of you could be using in the llamas of the days, the Mistrals of the days, OpenAI of the days, where you're getting billed per million tokens. That's one route we help you efficiently plug in our APIs as well. The second route is in case you've built something grounds up and you want to deploy it and you want to scale out as per business. In the night, there could be absolute no request. You want to scale it out to 1 to n, all governed by SLAs that your product then calls for. You're able to deploy that and scale it out. That's our deploy analogy. This is the entire stack that I talked about, right? Starting from getting all the data that you then need, curating it, pre-training, fine-tuning, and finally pushing it to inferencing where your AI is working out for you. We help you with the entire MLOps journey that you then desire for, right? This is one problem you cannot achieve on premises, and that's why most of you all jump to hyperscalers. But the problem there is you don't get access to these latest and greatest GPUs that are really accelerating innovation. And that's one advantage that you see along with this, beyond compliance, beyond TCOs and everything else that kicks in. Right? This is the entire stack that we talked about, right? At the underlying layer, we have our own data centers wherein these GPUs are running in from. You have the latest and greatest, right? Which means there could be a combination of workloads you need. Some of them could be running on H100s, the others on L40Ss, or some of them pure CPU compute depending on what your workloads call for, right? And basis it, you're able to orchestrate it and push it forward. We also closely work with an array of partners, including Microsoft being the latest, which means from your Azure ML Studio that you're used to, you can plug in and consume our GPUs at scale, making sure your training, your testing, all that is bound with sovereignty around it. Right? Another big problem that we all are encountering is compliance. Our data is so close to our heart, and that is why you see massive deployments go on premises. The problem with on premises is that you're tied to this hardware for the next 4-5 years, whereas GPUs are bought every year on year. You see new models, which means the innovation is happening at that pace, right? We give you a customization wherein you can bring your own storage boxes, your own network, your own firewalls, and just consume these GPUs from us depending on what your compliance asks for. That's another varying addition that we bring on, which no other hyperscaler brings on, right? Which means we would be in hybrid mode, very close to what you would want on an on-premises with all the additional feature benefit that a hyperscaler brings in, right? That's the value addition that we bring on table. Of course, today a lot of us rely on open source, and managing it securely is a concern. Right? Along with NVIDIA has this framework called NIMS, which means all the open source models are well defined, governed with security, patches, all of it that's readily available on our platform. It can be an healthcare application, can be a drug discovery application, can be anything else that we're then talking about, or sheer open source model like Llama. All this well optimized for the GPU of choice is available on us. Right? Sometimes you wonder, where do we start our AI journey? Do I have a use case for myself, right? That's where NVIDIA has this catalog called Blueprints, which is just a skeleton array. For an example, you have an array of videos available to you as camera feeds. You just want to query in with an LLM and get outputs out of it. Of course, you can test this out at build.nvidia.com. If this works out well, you can straight as is deploy the entire pipeline using our GPUs to make sure it's compliant to all your compliance asks and make sure that you have all the governance that you need for. This again becomes a plug play where you want to pilot, push AI to production at scale, and you really want to understand what your use cases are. Right? I'll quickly jump into 2 use cases because we're short of time. One large customer, one large success story that we have is with Sarvam. Sarvam, of course, is building a large LLM for India, something like what OpenAI did for the global world. They're doing this for India. So the first problem statement that they had is they needed a large data set, right? So the first array of GPUs that we then gave was to create a lot of synthetic data, was for them to go scout on the wild internet to get data sets. The second large fundamental problem they needed was to scale out for a large training, right? Something that was reliable and scalable basis on the data that they then had. That's the second problem statement we helped them with. And finally, they wanted to push this out to all of you to consume, right? That's where they needed an inference engine. Of course, we also helped them with that. Right? And the second large case study that we want to talk about is Bhashini for the Kumbh Mela. All those messages that you wrote to or you called Bhashini's helpline or the app, all of that scaled from 1 to infinity using our GPUs at the backend. All the communication that you had during Kumbh Mela was all fueled and powered using our GPUs at the backend. Right? Of course, security is of compliance, so we have all the certificates that you ask for. Again, if there's something specific, we can of course discuss and get this through. I think that's the end of this deck. Any questions, we are of course available there for a talk. Thank you.